Okay, guys, wanted to build on what we're working on today. We're working on the word problems today, and whether to add or subtract. And for that, you have to pay attention to the words, right? So today we're just going to look at when you get parts and wholes, two parts equals one whole. So these would be the word problems where, like, maybe you know how much money you have, and then you started with this whole amount of money, you spent some money. How much did you spend? Different kinds of ways to think about these. So it's parts, parts, and wholes. So for the purposes of your answers, you're going to submit into Canvas your answers, whatever part goes into this blank box that you'll see. And I'll write the answers in red so you guys can see them, but I want you to think about this first, okay? So this is telling us that part of this is 2/10, right? The whole is 1.1 or 1 and 1/10, right? So we want to find this part. Now we can do that by adding or subtracting. We know this, right? So pretend if this was a word problem, you'd have to think about what strategy you want to use, right? So let's start off by saying we have zero point 0.2 plus some number that we don't know. That's this box, right? Equals 1.1. Now we can also have, we know the whole, right? We know the whole right here. So we can have 1.1 minus 0.2, and that's going to equal our other part, right? So I hope you guys can see that if you have 0.2, if you had 0.8, that would get you to one whole, right? And you've got to have one left over. So your answer would be 0.9. 0.9 would be the part. So you're going to put in 0.9 for your answer to A. All right, take a second, pause me, and I want you to work out part B on your own. Do it now. Okay, so for part B, let's go back to our blue pen here. We know the whole. When you know the whole, I always like to subtract because that's the start of our problem, right? 13.1. And then we can subtract the part that we have, 5.8. And if you did that math, you would get 7.3. Now, we can also take our 5.8 and add it, knowing that at the end, we're going to get 13.1. Now, I trust you guys are doing the math and lining these up correctly, but that would be a 7.3 in there again. So your answer for this one is going to be 7.3. That's what you're going to enter in for your answer. Now, real quick before we move on, make sure you're lining these up right, because to me, this was the best way to get this because it's the most cut and dry, right? Even if you do the adding part, you still kind of have to subtract to find that. So make sure you're doing 13 decimal 1, 5 decimal 8, and then keeping that decimal lined up down to here. 2, here, 12, 7.3. You got to keep them lined up. So for part A, make sure you put in 0.9. For part B, make sure you put in 7.3. All right, pause me and let's have you do C and D right now. Okay, so for part C, we're trying to find the whole, right? We have the two parts. So don't you just take the two parts and put them together? Wouldn't that be the easiest way? And you would get 7. Now, down here, remember, we wouldn't know the whole that we start with. And then we could subtract, really, either one. It doesn't matter. And you're going to get the other opposite answer, right? Now, make sure you're lining up your decimal. So for C, you are going to put in 7.0. If you don't put it in exactly the way I write it, I know you can add zeros in there, but please, for Canvas purposes, put it in the exact way I type it, okay? And then for D, you have the whole. That's when I like to come over here and do 8.2 minus 3.7. And if you line that up right, 8.2 minus 3.7, You would regroup. 7, and you'd have 4.5. So the other part is 4.5. Now we know, but remember, you also, if you did the adding, you would put your 8.2 right here. You'd have your 3.7, and you'd be trying to find this. So these all work together, right? They're like a family. So for D, make sure you put 4.5. All right, E. Let's do E and F together. Pause the video and find out your whole for here and your part for here. Do it now. Okay, so you could solve these either way, right? You can do whatever you want to solve these, but really, you've got your two parts. So if you do 10.5 plus 8, you're going to get 18.5. Now, they put this one on here to try to trick you, right? Because this is 10.5 plus 8, basically 0.0, right? Please don't let that confuse you. You got to keep that decimal. The math is not hard, right? It's keeping everything lined up. Now, you could also do that as a subtraction. You don't know the whole, and then you could subtract either of these. So you guys understand these two are interchangeable, right? It doesn't matter which one you put where. You could flip them. So, and for the last one, we have the whole. I already told you when you have the whole, make sure I would do it this way. And that is going to give us our other part, right? Now, you could know that your whole is 54.8 and then add 35.8 plus whatever this is to get it. But that seems like a lot of work. Doesn't that just still turn into the subtraction problem, right? So when you have the whole, put it at the beginning and subtract it. When you have the two parts, add them together. You can do it any way you want. For this one, you're going to make sure you put 19. And for this one, make sure you put 18.5 for E. So to recap, you're going to put 0.9 for A. B, you're going to put 7.3. C, you're going to put 7.0. D, you're going to put 4.5. E, you're going to put 18.5. And F, you're going to put 19. Please make sure you understand this. If you don't understand how these bar graphs, how these the bar model works, and how, because tomorrow we're going into two-step problems. You're going to have to do something like this twice tomorrow. So please make sure if you do not understand, send me an email and we'll get a small group going. All right. Thanks. Bye. See you.